Can we start by talking a little bit about the current system for, I guess, putting protein into feed for industrial agriculture?
Yeah, so as many of our guests probably know that feeding animals is a huge environmental cost, particularly cattle. And an increasing amount of our resources, mainly land, as well as fossil fuels, fertilizers, are allocated to growing crops that ultimately get mixed and pushed into animal feed. And the situation is not really felt in America. It's hard to know because the global food system is so well connected that our choices here have dramatic consequences in places that we don't see or feel.
Mm-hmm. What are some of the ingredients? So I imagine soy protein is one of the things that's in a lot of that feed.
Yep. So I'm a tropical biologist, actually. And from my work in the tropics, I've grown increasingly frustrated by seeing pristine rainforests cleared at really rampant rates, and particularly for soy and palm oil. And those things are grown for a food system that is not healthy for, especially the local communities where it's happening, but also for us, the types of feed that is going into animals and the products.
So it's not a good trade to cut down the rainforest, grow protein, grow soy, so that you can then ship it over and make it and feed cows. It seems pretty inefficient.
That's right. Yeah, and soy is not altogether bad. It's how it's being done.
Yeah. It's resource intensive because of the water, because of the pesticides, because of the carbon footprint of getting it back across the ocean.
And then clearing the forest to do it.
Yeah. So you have a different idea.
I do. So the idea is to take food waste, which in Boulder, for instance, there's over 20 tons per day, and then run that through. And
food waste is just from restaurants? And
restaurants, breweries, spent vegetables. There's all kinds of food waste, CU cafeterias. Mm-hmm. And it's actually amazing. If you go to behind any CU cafeteria, you'll find a bubbling soup of cafeteria food that, in a good scenario, it'll reach a compost pile. Yeah. But most of that reaches landfills.
Is that the creepy part that we were going to talk about?
No, the creepy part is the way to process it. The way to process it that I'm working on is using insects. And so there's an insect called the black soldier fly, which is extremely efficient at converting food waste into protein. And when it is raised on food waste, it turns into this wonderful ingredient that's 65% protein, 35% fat, and full of all the essential amino acids that livestock need to live on.
So the flies eat the garbage and convert it to this useful thing in the form of?
A larva.
Larva.
Yeah, a little larva.
Is that the same as a maggot?
I prefer a different word. There is an important distinction, though.
Okay.
The maggots that you find in your trash can love like putrescent waste, the stinky stuff. These maggots are slightly different.
Yeah.
They actually like oxygen. And so when they convert the waste into protein, they actually kind of aerate and fluff the material very aggressively. It's a half a kilogram of egg, which is about that big, the size of a golf ball, can turn into 15 kilograms of protein in less than 14 days. And
wow.
And the amount of waste, like you take like 100 kilograms or 100 pounds of waste, in 14 days it can become 15 kilograms of protein and 15 kilograms of fertilizer. And the rest of that mass actually just gets released to the atmosphere through metabolism.
Wow, so it's solving several problems at the same time because it's also it's basically taking or diverting waste that would have gone to the landfill.
That's right. So you're solving a food waste problem and you're creating a sustainable protein.
Yeah, except how do you harvest the protein from the middle of this putrid waste?
It's not putrid.
Oh, no,
Remember
I'm sorry. That's right. Okay, sorry. The food waste. How does one harvest the protein from the food waste?
The way you actually use evolution and biology. Larvae, when they're growing in food waste, when they're ready to go through metamorphosis, just like a butterfly, they actually crawl out of the food waste. They self-harvest. And they crawl out in mass to seeking a dry, dark territory to go under metamorphosis to become a fly. And so these larvae will transform into flies. But most of them I don't get that far. I take most of the larvae and then grind them up into a meal that's protein and fat rich.
Wow. And so this is so much more efficient, it sounds like, than, for example, harvesting soybeans and converting that into protein. So what's the ratio of the I guess you would call it maybe acreage or
Yeah.
square footage that you would need to produce something like that?
What's nice about this project is that the entire system of the farm, it doesn't require hardly any land. In 1 meter squared, I can get about the productivity of an acre of soy. And I can do it in 14 days.
Wow.
And
no water, no pesticides,
no fertilizer.
no
Yeah.
tractors, no
Exactly.
fossil
Just
fuels.
a lot of food waste.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which sadly there is.
Which sadly there is.
Yeah.
There's less and less. I mean, ultimately we want to prevent food waste, but there's enough out there to at least capture that value before it gets to landfill.
Wow. And do we know that this works? Do the protein is actually healthy for the animals?
Great question. I just submitted a USDA proposal today on that very topic. I submitted with some awesome people in Boulder, Black Cat Farm, Farringer Farms, EcoCycle's involved, some great aquaculture facilities. And our question is it safe? Because you're feeding them waste, which could have pesticides in it, which could have heavy metals in it, which could have bacterial pathogens.
From the food.
From the food waste, yeah. So when you grow, wheat or corn,
Yeah.
you're adding pesticides.
So your research is ongoing, but this is very promising, and it looks like with maybe some help from the USDA, others, you can actually kind of bring this to scale and find out
Totally.
if in fact this could. I mean, if did you say a square meter is the equivalent to an acre? Mm-hmm. So that's a huge change. That's a sea change. That's a big deal.
It is.
Yeah.
It's a huge change. The real challenges become technical, developing a technology to really facilitate that kind of production on a scale and manage it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then to make it yummy.
And to make it yummy for animals, not for
Animals.
humans.
Yeah, for animals. Yeah.
Which is important.
Yeah. Wow. Well, it's really interesting. I mean, I love the fact that there are these intractable problems that seem so enormous, that seem you can't really imagine changing something like this massive agribusiness system that seems really substantial and well entrenched.
Yeah, I worked in the palm oil industry actually for 2-3 years trying to reform a monster of an industry, and became so frustrated that I feel like revolution is really the only way forward. And there's a lot of that in Boulder. And it's a great place to do this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so create an alternative. I mean, all these ecological solutions that are worked out in academic spaces really won't work unless the market drives the change. And so that's kind of the next question.
Yeah. Well, good luck with the rest of your research. It's interesting, and I appreciate Helen's warning us about the subject matter in her introduction. Bottom line is, though, this sounds really pretty exciting.
It's great.
Yeah. Well, Phil Taylor, thank you for sharing your story, and we're going to keep an eye. If people want to learn more, they want to see what you're up to, is there a website or a place where they can kind of keep in touch with your research?
Yes, madagriculture.org.
Mad?
Yes. If anyone knows Wendell Berry, he wrote some poems in the 70s called the Mad Farmer Poems,
Yeah.
and they were prophetic.
Yeah.
That describe the current state of the food system. So it's an ode to Wendell Berry and his Mad Farmer lessons.
And so that website again?
Madagriculture.org.
Madagriculture.org. Okay.
Yeah.
And if for some reason you can't find it, you can always find more info at etown.org too. Great. Dr. Phil Taylor, thank you so much for being with us here in eTown.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, this is Nick Forster from eTown. If you want to stay up to date with all the performances, interviews, and behind-the-scenes footage, click the subscribe button. Thanks.